Hello, welcome Mind Shapers. This is the second video of 6 of the science of selfie, and I want to say this very clearly: you are in control. So if we try to control the uncontrollable, that's not very wise. But we can change the way we feel about it. So we can still control ourselves when we cannot control the environment. And we can take action. That can be applied for everything in our lives, especially emotions. Being practical with our photography. If we are trying to shoot an object or someone that we cannot change where it's located, we are not in control of that, we cannot change it for one of many reasons, we might relocate ourselves. And I want you to keep that in mind every time you are taking photographs using smartphone or any camera. And I'm going to show you an example right away. But before that, I want to define my targets. That's how I see them. That's how in my head I think when I'm taking photographs to something or someone. I identify the target. I know exactly if the target is a landscape, architecture, an object or a subject. And in case of an object and subject, usually they can be movable or non-movable. Specifically, again, a subject can be verbal or non-verbal. Depends, of course, if you are trying to photograph an animal, a bug, a bird or something, or just children playing, or a group of people, or a singular person. You can talk to them, you can influence them, or you cannot. Objects or people can be movable, you can control their position, so you can adjust stay where you are and change the object or the person. Or if you cannot do it, you will have to reallocate yourself in order to create the best perspective, composition. Lighting situation is also important. So keep this in mind first and foremost. Can you move the object, or should you move yourself, reallocate yourself to create the best image? That's about the target. And then we'll have the light. You can use that in your advantage, but again, it's a balance between what you have and what you want. Sometimes that action and that moment is more important than the light. But if you can readjust for a better position, then you can do it, and I will talk about the light later in a second. So for now, let's see these clips I've taken during a motorsport event, where in these two examples I explain, I show you how I adjust my camera and height, and how I get rid of distractions from the background to create the image I want. So let's take a look.
So here it is, and I wanted to shoot this little detail on the car, M performance. This M performance detail. So what I've done is I try to place this main point of interest in this zone of my camera using the Fibonacci rule spiral, if you remember, to end here. And now I can rotate the camera around this point. And what I'm looking for here is now a second tip, a new tip I'm going to give you, and that's perspective. The perspective I'm looking here, followed by this line of the car and the shoulder of the car, those lines will meet in the virtually in some point here, and I want to place that point on the corner of my frame. This is on the center spot of the spiral of the Fibonacci spiral, and imagine here the spot where the lines meet. But yeah, you can choose and see how does it feel, because I may want to show some more details like the mirror or the wheels or something, but just using the lines, this is about like this, the picture I want to create. so much details to take in consideration when we are taking a photograph, not necessarily a selfie. But for example, right now I'm shooting this clip and I can be either on the left on the frame, or I can place strategically myself on the right of the frame. I commonly do not place myself in the center unless I'm shooting a portrait. But in this case, or like so, you can also see what's happening behind me. And notice my shoulders, I'm not squared in front. Because I'm using also a one-arm selfie style, my shoulders are at 45 degrees, and it helps to give this notion of perspective as well. So guys, lots of tips today. Use the rules of composition and then look for perspective to create this notion of three-dimension imagery with your photographs.
And now let's see the second clip.
So another tip in action of what I've already told you. Now let's take in consideration the first tip I gave you. The first tip was remove any distractions from the background. So I'm going to change to the front camera so you can see again what my eyes are seeing. Okay, there you go. Now, in the case I want to shoot this car, I'll take a great picture. See, if I take a picture like this, I will be capturing. Yes, I've done already captured the welcome to the BMW experience, but right now if I do that, I will be capturing the media people, and I don't really want to do that. So I will just have to reallocate myself to clean the background. No, they're practicing, but what I've done is just reallocate myself. I have the car in about 45 degrees of my camera, and I reposition my height also. Again, we see the perspective. I've removed some distractions and I will capture a photo like so. I can increase my height and capture a little bit the M behind. You can also adjust the exposure to catch more detail on the shadows. There we go. This is me in action. This is how I think when I'm taking my pictures, as I told you with my 3 simple tips in action, not only for selfies but also for automotive and motorsports. Stay sharp.
And that's it basically. In terms of taking pictures with a smartphone or with a professional camera, I use those tips. That's what I do. That's how I think. I readjust myself. I try to use the best angle. I adjust my height. I adjust my location. I use perspective. I use the rules of composition. In this case, I talk a lot about one of my favorite ones. It's the Fibonacci spiral. We can use simply the rule of thirds, for example. And that's something that we must be constantly thinking about, readjusting the camera, trying new positions, trying new angles, try to move the object if you cannot move yourself or the target. Think about the angles, think about everything. So there are lots of things going on, and practice your position relocation and try to think about the targets you are shooting: landscapes, architecture, objects or subjects, movable, non-movable, verbal and non-verbal. Try it. It's a good exercise, and as always, hit me up if you have any questions or comments. I'll be available. Until then, video number 3 is coming. Peace and love.